Hey there, my friend, and welcome back to Bounce Back Black Woman. And welcome to the very first installment of what I'm calling the kitchen table conversations. If you grew up like I did, you know that there was something really special about the kitchen in our houses. During holidays and family gatherings, that's where the women naturally gathered. And while the food was being prepared and conversations were happening, they laughed and we chuckled in the background. We checked in on one another. They shared stories and offered advice. And sometimes there were tears. Sometimes there were prayers. And somehow, even before the meal was served, something within hearts had already been nourished. And the kitchen table became this place where generations of women reminded one another, you're going to be all right. And that is the spirit behind having these kitchen table conversations. It's simply women gathering together and sharing their experiences honestly and reminding each other that we don't have to carry life's burdens by ourselves. Today's conversation feels especially meaningful to me because the women joining me today aren't just guests and prominent women that I admire. We have celebrated milestones together. We call each other friends, and we're actually more like sisters. And we have been for over 40 years. We walk together through life's challenges, heartbreaks, divorces, losses, laughter, and all kinds of transitions. And for those of you who are listening who know what a D9 organization is, we also share that. We pledged our beloved sorority, Delta Sigma Theta, back in 1984. And we have been connected since that year, all these years later. Um, we have one of our beloved line sisters that joins us every day from heaven, but the rest of us are still walking on this earth. And so I figured the very first kitchen table conversation should honor that. And so I have invited my line sister, number 15, Lysandra, and my line sister number 6, Natalie, to join us in today's conversation, which is called Sometimes Our Bodies Betray Us. And if you've been listening to the series, you know that this is part of the Sometimes series. Um, Sometimes all kinds of things happen in life. And today we're going to be talking about when our bodies betray us. Just a few more notes, and then I'm going to let our guest talk with us. For many women, there comes a moment when our bodies begin changing in ways that we never would have expected. Sometimes it's menopause. Sometimes it's chronic illness. Sometimes it might be an autoimmune disease or just pain. Sometimes it's exhaustion or divorce. Sometimes it's a diagnosis that changes everything. So know that today's conversation isn't about medical advice. It's about reminding every woman listening that whatever you're going through, you are not alone. So, Lysandra, I'm going to ask if you would take a moment, introduce yourself, and tell our listeners a little bit about who you are.
Hello, ladies and all. My name is Lysandra Leach Blaylock. I am what they call the tail. I'm number 15 um, on our line Papillon. I am a wife. I am a mother of two adult children. I am a cat mom now. And I am always and forever a physical therapist, now hashtag PTMPT, as a result of a spinal cord injury due to a cyst that was pressing at my 11th thoracic segment. So I am what they call a incomplete paraplegic, and recently a uterine cancer um, survivor. I am a craftswoman. Um, I love all things arts and crafts. I am a nature lover still, um, an avid reader, a cinema buff, and so much more.
Yes, yes. The complete woman. Complete woman. All right, Natalie, tell us about you.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hello.
Um, I'm Natalie Darrett Pressey. Again, number six on the line, as Delphine mentioned. I am first and foremost happy to be here at this kitchen table talk. And Del, you did sum it up. And even, as early as this past weekend, I was at the kitchen table with family, just trying to do some problem solving or life, not even problem, just some life solving. And so I'm happy to be here to share. I am a wife, a mother. Um, I'm retired. That's like
Yay.
my most recent and happiest chapter right now.
Mm,
Um, I'm healing both still physically and emotionally from just life and working and doing all those things that we are told to do. And, now I have a moment to, you know, to breathe, to exhale, to reflect, and to heal, really. Yes, heal. Um, I am a 14-year breast cancer survivor. I had a right breast mastectomy with uh, um, body reconstruction. Um, my story's a little different. I didn't do chemo and radiation. So, but yes, I'm here. I'm happy to tell my story. I'm constantly sharing. I know that God has blessed me and I have a purpose. Even sitting here today is a purpose to share, to inspire, um, and to let folks know that there's life after a diagnosis, right? And
mhm.
so I'm happy to be here.
Love it. And I am grateful that you're both here to share your stories. I think our listeners will get a lot of value and connection and inspiration from your stories. The first question I have for you both, and you can go in whatever order you feel, is when did you first realize that something had changed with your body?
Matt, you want to take it first?
Um, yes. I can go first. And I still have to say sometimes it gets a little emotional for me, so bear with me. But yes, the first time I learned my body had changed was through diagnosis, getting the phone call that I had breast cancer, after going through lengthy mammograms and ultrasounds,
Mm,
and then a what they call a stereotactic biopsy, which is pretty I want to say it's a ruthless and degrading type of, if anybody's gone through it, you know what I'm talking about. Very degrading type of for a woman, I feel, or
mm,
any, because I know men get breast cancer as well. Um to go through getting through that, and then being hopeful that the results would not be what they were, and then
yeah.
getting that phone call. And again, with breast cancer, a lot of times you don't feel any pain, and I didn't. I had
Hmm.
no idea.
So,
There
can
was
I ask,
no lump. Hmm.
did that arise from just your annual checkup, your annual mammogram that you go for?
It did. I have to say I was 6 months behind. So usually I go annually. So this was 18 months in.
Hmm.
But there's a long story behind that where there was something on a prior report that wasn't pointed out to me. And this was a time where I personally didn't read the reports. I waited for the doctor to tell me if something was wrong, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So now, you get all that information, you get the reports, you look at it, you get a notification. But back then, it's like I
Right.
have doctors, I have a GYN, I had a primary care doctor, they all got the results. And it wasn't until after my surgery and everything, I started looking back at all the reports, and the report prior to the one that became questionable, there was something there. And my doctors, who had become my friends, did not reach out and tell me.
Mm,
And so,
okay.
so there was a whole process with me when you talk about trust and doctors,
Right.
that I had to deal with from that perspective. And
Right.
so, but a bigger part of that story for me is even going through it and being in the room and waiting sometimes what seems like forever for the tech or the person who was managing the test to come back and tell me whatever the next steps was. I have to say that I was going through, because they were longer than normal, and I'm sitting here going, what is happening right now? Why is it taking them so long to come back
Mm-hmm.
to me? I reflected on my past personal experience with both my parents, who had both succumbed to cancers at various
Mm,
stages. And so I was sitting in this room thinking, no, like this can't
yeah.
be, this is not happening. And
Yeah.
so after you've dealt with parents who both totally succumb to, like, when cancer takes you out,
Mm-hmm.
being in the rooms going, what's happening? Why
Right.
is it taking them so long? These images and emotions fill you, and you're like,
Mm-hmm.
okay. So
Yeah.
getting that phone call, um, that it was, you know, um, breast cancer, um, was tough for me because I saw what cancer had done to
Right.
both my parents at what would be very young ages. And so it was, it was unfortunate, but fortunate that I had gone through that, because for me, it took a moment that, yes, my body is failing me, but I'm gonna fight, because I also, so it's like this fear, but also like, no, you can't give into it,
Mm-hmm.
because I saw what cancer could do.
Right.
Right. So
Right.
it did give me a different level of fight, for me. So
Okay. Yeah. Lysandra, when did you first realize that something had changed with your body?
I was working at um, a nursing home. And if you, as a patient, told me that you wanted to go home, I was going to do everything in my power to make sure that you got to do that. So I had a patient whose daughter placed him there. He was very sad and very depressed. And he said, I want to go home. I said, okay, what is home going to be like for you? And he lived uh, in an apartment. He would need to um, uh, walk a certain distance to enter, to get to the elevator, and then from the elevator to his apartment. The laundry facility was downstairs, so he would need to be able to get to the laundry facility. And so we began to map out a treatment plan that involved gait, balance, and endurance training. What I did not know was that his daughter had no intention on allowing him to go home. So she made the process very difficult. She said, he's going to need to get in and out of the car. And I'm like, okay, bet we can do that. So we began to work on transfers as well. I was so focused on helping this individual go home with the least amount of risk as possible that I did not notice that the day, July 14th, 2014, I required the the support of my son to walk to the car. It wasn't until I was driving to work that I realized, number one, that my son was taller than me, and he was 13 at the time, and that number two, I needed to hold on to him to get to the car.
Mm-hmm.
And I sat in the car for a little while and processed that. I called my primary care physician, and like Nat, my doctors are my friends. My doctors are my family. And if you don't fit into that, then you're not the doctor for me.
Mm-hmm.
So she said, come on in. We ran MRI, and there was a 4 millimeter synovial cyst at the time, just there within the spinal column,
Mm-hmm.
within the canal, right? Um, for those who don't know, synovium is the tissue, the sleeve, the envelope that surrounds your joints. And within that, you've heard synovial fluid, which is the lubricant that helps, allows you to move
Okay.
freely.
Mm-hmm.
So, synovial cysts occur in people all the time, and they don't know because it tends to be external to the spinal skeleton. I would be different, and this would be internal. I began to a course of steroids and physical therapy to try to shrink that. 6 months later, though, I began to notice that my legs were beginning to feel like jelly, like
Mm-hmm.
wet noodles. And I was beginning to experience sensory loss. My neurosurgeon at the time was 5-star rated from Johns Hopkins, but he was out of town in Brazil teaching clinic to people in Brazil. So I told my husband, we need to go to the emergency room. On the way downstairs, my legs gave out and I collapsed. And I sat on the stairs and cried, oh my God, I'm a paraplegic now. Um, but my husband was saying, well, we're going to need to call the ambulance. I'm not going to ride in the ambulance. No, we're going to get into this car. So I'm grateful for physical therapy training that taught me and allowed me to teach him how to get me up, cruise down the car. This man drove the car to the front steps of our house. So
Mm-hmm.
if you don't know my home, but if you did, you would know he'd had to drive over grass and everything to get to the front steps. We were able to get to into the car, into the hospital, where I had MRI again. That's a whole nother story.
Mm-hmm.
We'll be on this Zoom for hours if I even talked about that. But this 4 millimeter cyst had now grown to 7 millimeters, and it was pressing my spinal cord.
Okay.
Um, I then met the neurosurgeon that was on duty, which is interesting because the neurologist that I had, who's also a friend of mine, had wanted me to meet this man in the first place. And I was like, oh no, I got this Johns Hopkins surgeon. He's great. I'm fine. Um, Dr. Amini turned out to be the doctor that I needed at the time. So he said, we have two choices. We can do high doses of steroids, or we can go in and get it. And I said, we've already had high doses of steroids. You're going to need to go in and get it. At this time, I was not able to feel my legs, and I had lost movement from the trunk down. Mm. The surgery was the 15th of March, 2015. It was supposed to be 3 hours. It lasted 5 hours. I woke up, did a quick PT exam on myself, and noticed that I could wiggle my toes and I could feel my front thighs. And I was like, okay, something's better. When he came in that morning to see me, I asked, "Can you go get the physical therapist so that I can see if I can stand up?" The PT came in, they got me up on the walker. I walked about 15 feet and I broke down crying again because my response was, "Oh my God, Todd, I'm walking like a toddler." And she at the time was cheering, "Oh, this is great. This is wonderful." And I thought, am I a cheerleader like this? This is simple. This is silly. But yes, I am a cheerleader like that. Um, and that went on to be a lesson later on that I recently learned um, about how I tend to judge myself based on what was instead of at present, what it is at present, how to appreciate being present.
Right.
Um, so that began a long journey of
Right.
uh, um, coming back from what was paraplegia to incomplete paraplegia.
Right.
I was transferred to an inpatient rehab facility. That's another story as well, to be a PT in a rehab facility. Um, Now having to advocate for myself,
Right.
you
What a
know.
story.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing it. I wanted to ask about those early moments,
Mm.
because I think so many women can relate to that very first moment when you realize that your body is betraying you. So um, that's often only the beginning. So I want us
Mhm.
now to dive into, and you've shared a little bit of this already. We've kind of touched on it, but how once you got that first notice, that first diagnosis, that first report from the doctors, how did that affect just your mindset and your everyday life and things? I'm talking about things like your confidence or your identity or your faith, your daily routines. Just in a nutshell, how did that diagnosis begin to change you or affect your life at that point? Natalie?
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
Um, for me, here again, I wasn't new to cancer, right? And the outcomes for both my parents wasn't great. I was 49 years old.
Mhm.
A new, um, um, my husband and I, we were, when the kids go away, we were empty
Empty
nesters, right?
nesters.
Yes, empty nesters. We were excited about that. You start thinking about that chapter of your life,
Hmm.
thinking about planning a 50th birthday party, right? And so, and again, not feeling any pain, different from you, Lysandra. Your body physically, was, you had signs. I did not, because I stopped doing my own breast exams, because when I did thought I felt something, my doctor said, no, that's not what breast cancer feels like. So I just stopped doing that. And so I'm thinking I'm a walking, bill of health, right? I had just started running, doing, working out, really focusing on my health, because up until then, I felt I didn't need to, because things looked okay for me. But I was like, you know what? I'm about to turn 50. I need to get um, some routines, health routines in my life. So I was very excited about that. So hearing the cancer diagnosis, one, I looked back at what happened with my parents, right? Thought about my daughter in college. Oh my God, am I going to see her graduate? She was a sophomore. Am I going, you start thinking about all these
Hmm.
things you might possibly not be around for. My husband and I had only been married. We were about to celebrate our fifth wedding anniversary. And so, I'm at work. Had all these great titles, professional responsibilities. And so life up until that point was just perfect and planning and, next chapter. And so now cancer becomes, just even saying the words back then, I can remember like saying, I have breast cancer, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I hadn't really known anybody close to me that
Mm-hmm.
had it, that had any form of cancer. I knew there was cancer in my family, but my peers, 49, like, no, you know. So your mindset shifts, you do click. You can succumb to it,
Mm-hmm.
right? But I do believe, because it wasn't my first experience,
Right.
I had
Right.
been down that road. I did take a seat back for a minute and going, how dare you show up on my doorstep right
Mhm,
now, particularly
mhm.
after what you've taken from me already with my parents.
Right.
My dad succumbed to cancer at 46, my mom 64. Those are very young ages. I'm about to be 63 now. So like
Mhm.
your mortality, you can't help but like look at that. I beat my dad, but my mom, it's like, okay. So yeah, cancer, it it definitely was a mind shift. But I was also the person that said that I was not going to be quiet about it.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so I definitely adopted the faith over fear, the fearless attitude. I spoke up about it. I kind of like told everybody I saw. And
Yeah.
some people go through that journey and don't even say anything. But I
Mhm.
that was not me.
True.
And I know that that was, unfortunately, but fortunately, I think the gift my parents gave me,
Mm-hmm.
in the darkness of it, right? It's
Right.
like, you've been here, girl. Like,
Right.
we're not gonna do this. We're gonna
Right. Right.
talk about it. We're going to advocate. We're going to get, the best resources. We're going to
Mm-hmm.
find out who has been through this and has survived it. So it was a step back, but then to help
Step
me take
forward.
some steps forward.
Let's get
Mm-hmm,
it. Let's
mm-hmm,
get it.
mm-hmm.
Lysandra, how did that diagnosis for you affect things like your confidence or your identity or your routines?
I was engrossed in fear.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, my children were in middle school, and you have children, so you know how middle school can be absolutely horrible.
Hate
Um,
it.
yeah. And so they were in middle school. So I was negotiating that with them. I was along with my husband, my income was needed, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was paramount
Right.
uh, to now wonder what's going to happen if I'm not able to work. Um, at the rehab facility, the rehab director was my doctor assigned to my case. And he made an announcement to the rehab staff that a member of the family was there, and he expected them to treat me like I was a VIP, and which was met with resentment.
Right.
And I had to sit the rehab staff down and explain to them, at this moment, I am not a physical therapist. At this moment, I am the mother of two young children,
Right.
and I'm afraid.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what my future is going to be like. Um, so we had to have a little meeting of the minds. I would say fear was my prime mover at the time.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Um, and because of that, it made me determined to work very hard. I was also an 80s trained therapist. So in the 80s, once you had a spinal cord injury, that was it. Right? They didn't understand
Yeah.
the spinal cord like they do now,
Right.
thanks to Christopher Reeves, right?
Okay.
It was because of him and his philanthropy
Mm-hmm.
that we know as much as we know about the spinal cord now.
Right.
So I had to essentially take myself back to school and
Mhm.
read the publications
Right.
and the journals and um, figure out what it was that I was facing. Um, the spinal cord uh, is similar to the brain, but not. Where the brain has these undifferentiated cells, like processors that haven't been programmed yet. The spinal cord is sort of like the extension cord, right? The
Mm.
current passes through it.
Okay.
At the time, um, I thought once the cord was damaged, that was it. They're learning now that it too has its own healing systems.
Mhm.
It just takes a long time. It takes repetition and
Right.
saturation. Um, Today, that fear, I don't face that fear. I
Yeah.
am very methodical and dogged and determined to continue to um, go through courses of physical therapy. I make sure I get on the floor every single day. I don't
Mhm.
ever want to lose that ability to get up off the floor.
Right.
Um, so that's where I
I
am
love
today.
that.
You
Love
know,
that. And I'm going to use that to help us take a step back and ask for both of you, what was it that helped you begin adapting? Because I hear in that story that you began to adapt to the diagnosis itself and the realities that it brought. But other than mindset, people rely on all kinds of things to help them adapt, whether that be specific doctors that you feel you can trust maybe more than others, or your faith, or your boundaries that you put in place, or your whether it's therapists or counseling, or just figuring out a way to use your faith to accept where you are and move forward. What helped you both begin adapting to the reality of the diagnosis, the possibilities, the uncertainty? What did you lean on?
I have a toolbox.
Okay.
That's what I call it. I have several tools. Um, I have um, intuition,
Mm-hmm.
um, meditation, introspection. Those are tools for me. Um, Knowledge seeking is definitely a tool. If an answer's out there, doggone it, I'm going to keep looking until I find it. Right. If there's,
Mm-hmm.
and I believe that there's an answer. So I'm going on a mission, a journey to seek and find it.
Right.
Um, Family has been instrumental, but my friends have been the most valuable. And, shout out to this line. My line sisters have been like medicine, literally. There are times, and of course, there's research that supports this. There are times when they are literally the panacea to pain. I literally can go hang out with you guys and that neuropathic pain, because I do have neuropathy, um, abates. It's gone for a moment. It's very palpable. So it's very
Yeah.
spiritual. I rely on the spirit realm, um,
Awesome.
very much so.
Yeah. How about you, Nat?
Um, for me, it was again, sometimes people tell me like, the questions, oh my God, you probably should have been a lawyer. I have a finance background, right? But the questioning, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I had gone through that with my mom, and there were times that I was not happy with the system, the hospital
Mm-hmm.
system, the medical. And so I entered into my diagnosis, um, with the side eye, right?
Mm-hmm.
And realizing that medicine is not an exact science,
Right.
right? That it's also a business,
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
right? And so I was determined to do the research, to ask the
Mm-hmm.
questions. I'm sure I they have a picture of me in some of these doctors' offices. It's like, oh God, here she comes,
Like
right?
warning,
Because
warning. Have you seen this woman? Have you seen
yes,
this woman?
yes,
Beware, she gonna
I
ask
you
you a
know, my
million
oncologist
questions.
current yes, my oncologist and I, we were like this. And so,
Mm-hmm.
I definitely relied on the research and the
Right.
questioning and not necessarily Google either, because they tell you stay
Mm-hmm.
away from WebMD back then. Again, we're talking like 14 years ago. Um, I asked people, and
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, it wasn't people that looked like me because
Right.
a lot of us had not, again, I tell you, there weren't many that had gone
Through.
through this breast cancer diagnosis.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did rely, and I'm gonna be honest, it's not the first time. Their level of awareness when it comes to the medicine field versus ours is different, and for all the reasons, right?
Right.
We don't trust the doctors, all the research that was done on us,
Mm-hmm.
or whatever. And so I have to say that I found some valuable gems in asking questions for people that didn't necessarily look like me.
Right.
Mhm.
I assembled an amazing team, of doctors that I had to feel comfortable with because of experiences that I
Mm-hmm.
had gone with through with my parents.
Right.
And it really was about what I felt in my gut when I walked in a room,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Trusting
how they
that.
treated
Mm-hmm.
me.
Yes.
Yeah, just trust in my gut, really. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
yes, there's the faith part. There is looking at, and again, like I said, I was like the first one in my community that had gone through this. So everybody around me that loved me, friends, source, that they're looking at me like, in this empathetic, sad,
Right.
like, oh my
I
God,
can't
like
believe this is
what? And I'm
happening
like,
to you.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
And it's like, that wasn't quite helpful, right? It's like,
No.
no, I understood it. They were scared. Like everybody was
Yeah.
scared.
Yeah.
And so I was scared, but I knew that I had to fight. And so it really was advocating the asking the questions,
Mm-hmm.
um, asking more questions, getting the first, not just the first opinion, getting a second and sometimes third opinion, right?
Right.
Uh-huh.
And so those are the things that I relied on because I did feel like I was in the fight for my life. I needed to see my daughter graduate. I needed to celebrate many more anniversaries with my husband. I needed
Mm-hmm.
to be there, for my family and for whatever else life needed to happen for me. And so yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I was a numbers person, so I
Mhm.
needed to just seek out what was the best option for me.
Yeah.
So,
No, that's really important for a lot of people listening today, probably to hear. And I don't want to sound like we have completely different struggles as Black women, but what we know is that our voices are not always heard as loudly. And you alluded to that, Natalie. And so, for the woman that is listening, maybe in her own journey with whatever, her weight or her diagnosis is for her, speak up,
Mhm.
find
yes.
allies, find
Mhm.
other voices to join yours.
Yep.
Um, Even if they don't look like you, that might open doors
Mhm.
that are closed to you at the moment. And I hate that we have to acknowledge and navigate that, but reality is reality.
It
And
is.
we get one life. So if you ruffle a few feathers fighting for yours, so be it.
Mhm.
That's kind of my
Yep.
perspective on it.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
Lysandra, I want to ask you, do you have one or two nuggets to add to what Natalie talked about before we transition into really speaking to our listener with what you want to share
Sure.
to encourage them?
Yeah, I want to speak on intuition a
Mm,
moment. Um, as especially since I also uh, had a cancer diagnosis, which was the uterine cancer,
mm,
um, because it was that inner voice that said to me something was amiss. There was a whispering that said something is not right,
mm-hmm,
and I knew I had a fibroid. I pursued um, to find out what was going on with this fibroid because I had gone through menopause. I was told to expect the fibroid to shrink, and
mm,
it didn't seem to do that. If anything, it seemed to have been growing. So when I went to see my nurse practitioner, I asked her if we can do a pelvic ultrasound because I wanted to be able to see it myself. What's going on with this fibroid?
mm-hmm,
Um, that's when they discovered that there was a uterine mass. Um, and biopsy revealed that it was uh, uh, cancerous carcinoma. Um, and that was shocking to me because cancer is not a diagnosis in my family. Heart disease runs in my family.
mm-hmm,
And so I was always vigilant about my blood pressure um, and my lipids and my cholesterol because heart disease ran in my family. So it was shocking to hear that word being applied to me, right? But intuition was my friend. In
mm-hmm.
listening to ourselves,
Yes.
right? And not thinking you're crazy when you hear yourself say something, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you say something, go to someone and say something.
Right. Speak up.
That's what I would like to
Mm-hmm.
have people take away. I'm grateful for my intuition because it caught it so early that I was staged at 1A and it was
Mm-hmm.
just confined within the polyp that they removed,
Mm-hmm.
right? So my oncologist, who is brilliant, by the way, um, young Black woman, um, Dr. Ebat, and she's given me permission to use her name, said to me, it was you who found it.
Mm,
We didn't find it. You
right.
found it. And you had presence
Yeah.
of mind to listen when
Right.
your inner voice said something wasn't right. Something is amiss.
Right.
You know,
That's
so
really important.
mhm,
Like, how
Yep.
many times do we dismiss things within our own bodies and minds because we don't
Yeah.
want to, I don't know, overreact or create drama around ourselves or be the center of everybody's concern and attention, that we just put things off to the side thinking it'll be, it's probably
Mm-hmm.
nothing, it's fine. You are your best advocate and you know your body better than anyone else
Yep.
in the world. And
Yep.
so that's the message I hear underneath what you just shared, Lysandra. And I think it's an important one for
It is.
anybody out there listening, even if you think you're in perfect health, because what we know is things can change on a dime. Um,
Mhm.
we have, in our group of 15 women, we've lost one. We have another that is fighting her own battle today that we recently learned about. And that's just in a group of 15. So
mhm,
think about
Mhm.
extrapolating that across the diaspora of women and Black
mhm,
women.
mhm,
These are important conversations that often don't get
Mhm.
made. I know I've got two daughters. We don't sit around and talk about this. But even having this conversation today makes me realize that I need to talk to my girls because my voice won't be here forever for them, and help them understand the importance of knowing their bodies, caring for their bodies, advocating for themselves, pushing back when doctors say, no, that's too expensive or we can't run that test. Trust your intuition and gather your army, whatever your army looks like, in your corner to
Mhm.
help you advocate for yourself.
Mhm.
That's what I'm hearing when I put together both of the stories that you guys have shared. And they're not even just one story, especially Lysandra. I hear so many stories within the stories
Mhm.
because it's not even always a one and done. These kinds
Right.
of things show up. I feel very fortunate that I don't have many of these personal stories in my past. I think for me, as I age, the struggle is understanding what is normal and what is not.
Mhm.
And it's funny that I talk about my girls because they get concerned about things that I don't get concerned about. There's a part of aging that means we forget things. I am the biggest culprit of forgetting things, but
Mhm.
it scares them because they wonder, is there something going on neurologically that I need to get ahead of?
Right.
And I tell them, first of all, a lot of times when you all tell me things, I'm not really even listening because I'm doing 50 million things. So it's like, it's not going in. But there's some truth to that because I think at what point do I stop excusing and minimizing some
Mhm.
of that? As we age, our bodies start failing us. We can't sleep like we used to, and that is a huge thing. We can't go up and down stairs like we used to. We can't drop it low like we used to. Like our bodies
Health
are
topic. Yeah.
constantly changing. And I think for me, it's accepting without judging my body for it,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
staying attuned enough to know when something just doesn't feel like normal aging.
Right.
So I think without having a story to lean on, my advice for the listeners would be find a doctor you trust, go often, don't be afraid to ask. Read. We have access to more information in this day and age than we ever have. So look online, ask your friends, don't sit in silence, because you are the best advocate for your body and your mind. That would be kind of what I would share. Um, and as we get ready to close, I want to pose one last question to both of you. Um,
Mhm.
and I want to, since this is the inaugural kitchen table conversation, I want to start implementing this with you. What is one thing that you hope that every woman listening remembers from today's conversation?
Mhm. Okay. Um, I'm gonna go because
Okay, you go ahead.
I want women to understand this. It's only recently that they've begun to ask questions, and even now they're still getting um, pushback when it comes to conducting research on women, postmenopausal women, right? Belinda Gates, bless her heart, just donated $650 million towards menopausal research. We must be active participants
Mm-hmm.
in this thing called menopause. We must be because they don't know. We're
Mm-mm.
coming from a patriarchal medical system that just called it hysteria, right? And wanted you to have a vibrator and keep on going. But it's much more than that. It's much more involved. Menopause
Mm-hmm.
is impacting every system of our bodies.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes your doctor may not know.
Right.
You must become an active participant and don't dismiss
Right.
anything. And don't you dare diminish yourself in order to
Mm-hmm.
make anyone else comfortable when it comes to your body. Um,
Absolutely.
and I think it's
Absolutely.
going to be imperative that we continue to have these conversations with each other, right? Because even when you spoke about the sleep issue,
Mm-hmm.
you know, um, insomnia is running rampant with women who are postmenopausal.
Mm-hmm.
And they're now just beginning to ask, why is that?
Right.
and what is the role of estrogen in this,
Hmm.
right? Because they don't know either. So you're
Right.
going to have to become an active
An
participant,
advocate.
and you
Absolutely.
may have to participate in a research study or two.
Okay.
Um, so
Love
that's my.
that. And you're spot on. Nat, what would you add to that?
um, I would add that my takeaway is that a diagnosis does not always mean that life ends, right?
Hmm.
You can it's a it's a very dark space initially, and you sit with it. It doesn't come
Yeah.
without fear, right?
Hmm.
But you have to act. You have to act. Again, there is life after, there's a life surviving. I mean, for many, it'll be your new normal, right? I have scars. Scars are, my constant reminder. Um, but you become more intentional, right? You get through it. Um, Prior to my diagnosis, I was a workaholic, just everything that, we put so much on in life, all the stuff that we think is so rewarding. And then after diagnosis, it definitely changes things, right? So
Hmm.
you become intentional. That's why you need to fight, because after that, once you're surviving, um, I live with the fear every day that my cancer could come back, you know. But that's why you have to be intentional.
Right.
You have to be intentional. You have to it forces you to re-evaluate your purpose, right?
Hmm.
The people in your life, you tell them you love them. Um, the survivorship is important. Um, After, you fight for your life. And so I think the takeaway is there is life. There's life after a
Hmm.
diagnosis. And
There is.
sometimes it shake you up, but you get through it and you become so much more intentional. Small stuff.
Yeah. Uh-oh. You
Gives you
froze.
peace.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, you find the peace. I know there's a major storm here.
Uh-huh.
And so I again, I just think that it's important to know that there is life after a diagnosis. After your body
Absolutely.
fails you, you
Yeah.
take it in, evaluate, take action, you readjust, and you have a new normal. And particularly for me, becomes purposeful because I share my story wherever possible.
Hmm.
Um, and I realize I'm still here, and to provide inspiration and to show that there could be there is life after diagnosis. So
Absolutely. No, those are wonderful closing thoughts. And I want to thank you both for joining me and for trusting me to have this open and vulnerable conversation. Thank you for sharing your stories. I know that it will help and inspire somebody listening. And thank you for helping me launch something that I hope becomes a place where women feel seen and heard and encouraged and reminded that they never have to walk through life's challenges by themselves. And to everyone who's listening, thank you for pulling up a chair to our kitchen table today. And if today's conversation encouraged you, I hope that you'll share it with another woman who needs this reminder. And so until next time, take care of yourself, extend yourself grace, and remember that it's not just you and it's not just me, it's us.